Hi everyone and welcome to today's session. This is the Athletic Development Session 2 and we're going to continue to challenge the movements developed in the first phase by advancing the movement challenges of exercises here in the second phase and also combining some of the exercises. So we're going to kickstart this session with the stability mobility unit for the warm-up, and as always, I want you to start with the breathing control and the core bracing before you start these movements. Once you have that completed, we're going to start with the hip bridge series exercise. So this is combining all the hip bridge exercises that you would have learned through phase 1 and combining them. So Jake's going to demonstrate here for us. And we're going to start off with the peeling motion that you would have learned in the first block of phase 1. So in that hip bridge position with your knees bent, feet flat, and hands down by your side, you're just going to work on peeling through the spine and mobilizing through the spine and pelvis for 2 repetitions. So take your time with this, peeling up from the tailbone all the way up to the upper spine and reversing that peel back down again. On the second rep, try exaggerate that movement a little bit more, squeezing through the glutes at the top of the movement and exaggerating that peel back down. Pausing it here, you're going to take the arms back behind the head to advance the challenge and continue that peel. It's a little bit more challenging now, so you really have to focus on controlling the spine and pelvis as you peel up and down. Nice control here. Good. Arms down by your side. We're now going to take it to the one leg hip lift exercise to activate the glute a little bit more. You're now going to complete 5 repetitions on each leg, squeezing through the glute to activate and lifting the hips up to the ceiling. Coming down fully and again activating the glute to lift again. Each time you do this, you're going to drive through the heel to activate through that glute a little bit more. Take your time with this. We are still warming up. You're focusing on activating that glute muscle, waking it up. Keeping it nice and steady. Once you've 5 repetitions completed, you're going to switch legs. Activating through the glute, driving the hips high, keeping that opposite leg in line. Remember here, it's about activating through the glute. So the extension here is coming from the hip, not the back. So make sure that you're not extending through the back on this movement. You're driving the hips towards the ceiling, but it's activation through the glute. Drive that weight through the heel. Five repetitions on each side. And that completes the bridge series. We're now going to move on to the inchworm series exercise, where we're going to combine the inchworm exercises that we've learned throughout phase 1. So the first exercise of this series is just that original inchworm exercise where you're walking out, stretching through the front of the body and walking back to standing position. So we're going to do 2 repetitions on that. Jake's going to demonstrate. Stretching through the legs, walking forward, dropping the hips, looking up to the ceiling, getting that nice stretch through the front of the body, holding for a couple of seconds and walking back to standing position. 2 repetitions here. Try exaggerate a little bit more the second time. Straighter legs. Exaggerating that frontal stretch here and walking back to standing position. Okay, we're now going to advance it on to the toe touch exercise. So let's walk it down to that push-up position, Jake. Stretch up. Good, and just walking a couple of steps back to reach back to the opposite toe. Good, walking forward and stretch. Couple of steps back, reach to the opposite toe. 2 repetitions here, 1 reach to each side. And finishing off with a 1-arm press. Push-up position, arm across the chest. Good, keeping it nice and steady. You're pushing back, hinging at the hips, looking underneath, pressing the chest back and forward. Again, just 2 repetitions here. Trying to keep your body as straight as possible. Good. Let's do 2 reps to each side. So let's go back to the first arm. Pressing back, keeping the hips nice and steady. And 1 more. Finishing off with a walk back to standing position. Hips press back, nice long legs. Good. Okay, that's your inchworm series. The next exercise is the scorpion stretch. This is one that we have not done before. This is a brand new exercise, but we're using this to open up the hips a little bit more and also open up at that thoracic spine, that upper back. So Jake, lying down on the ground, forehead resting down on the mat, arms out to the side in that T position. And from here, you're going to extend one leg across the body, allowing the knee to bend, reaching across and tapping off the ground if you can. Bring it back to the center and repeat the same on the opposite side. Reaching across, trying to open up the hips and find as much range as possible. You're going to repeat this exercise about 3 to 5 times on each side. So 6 to 10 repetitions in total here. Each time you do this, you're looking for a little bit more range. You're trying to open up the hips a little bit more. And as you do this, as Jake's doing here, you're trying to keep the shoulders down towards the ground. Now you might see a little bit of a lift, but you don't want to allow that arm and shoulder to lift up because you won't get that release or stretch through the hips. So trying to keep the upper body down as much as possible. Not forcing a stretch here. So just reaching to the point of tension, but make sure that there's no pain on this movement. Once you've completed 3 to 5 repetitions here on each side, you're going to slowly come to a standing position. The final exercise for this unit is going to be a combination of your squat, your lunge, and your T-stance exercise. These are all movements that we've been learning over phase 1, and we're now going to challenge you by combining all 3 movements. So in the previous block, we learned how to combine the squat and lunge exercise, and now we're going to increase that intensity by adding in the T-stance movement. So Jake's going to demonstrate this for us again. You're going to start off in a squat position with your arms in front or wherever they're most comfortable. From there, you're going to transition into a lunge position by stepping backwards, looking for that 90-90 position, and then slowly transition forward into a T-stance position. So shifting your weight forward, looking for that nice strong T-stance position, and then come to a standing position. And you're going to repeat the same on the opposite leg. Squat, nice tall torso, stepping back, looking for that 90-90 position, and shifting forward to find that T-stance position. Each time you do this, look for a little bit more control on that T exercise. Look for a little bit more depth from the chest. Look for a little bit more height from the back leg. So just challenging that stability a little bit more each time. Let's try get that back leg a little higher, Jake. Good, much better that time. Each time alternating the leg that you're stabilizing with. Nice smooth transition into that T-stance position. Good. Let's get that back leg a little higher. Good. Each time, reps looking a little bit better. You're going to perform about 3 to 5 repetitions here on this. Remember that from that T-stance position, you're going to activate that glute and hamstring to come to the standing position. We're just going to do one more rep here, Jake. Nice and steady, activate through the glute and come to a standing position. Good. So about 3 to 5 repetitions there on that, and that completes our stability and mobility unit. So this is your strength and power unit, and we're going to continue to challenge your movement skills by advancing the movement demands of each exercise. But we're also going to increase the intensity by increasing the number of sets that you're going to do, increasing from 2 to 3 sets that you would have performed in the previous block and phase to now 3 to 4 sets. And you can do that in 2 different formats. So you can do that in alternating sets, moving from exercise to exercise and then going back to the start and repeating that for 3 to 4 sets. Or you can do repeated sets where you perform one exercise for 3 to 4 sets with a 1 to 2 minute break in between before moving to the next exercise. So it's up to you how you perform this. If you find that you perform the repeated sets and it's a little bit too tough, just bring it back to the alternating sets. So the first exercise we're going to demonstrate here is the hip thrust single leg movement. Now in the previous block we would have performed the hip thrust exercise, but now we're advancing it onto the single leg variation of this exercise. So if you're finding this a bit too tough, just take it back to that double leg hip thrust movement. So we're going to perform 8 to 10 repetitions here, and Jake's going to demonstrate. So you're going to find yourself a surface where you can get your upper back elevated and with your knees bent at 90 degrees. So let's bring the feet in a little bit more, Jake. Your feet are shoulder width apart and flat on the ground. And raising up, you're just going to check or have someone check your body position here. So Jake, if you raise up, you can see here that Jake has a nice 90-degree angle, so that's what you're looking for. So just a reminder on the hip thrust exercise. Jake, you're going to drop the hips down towards the ground and lifting back up again. So that's your hip thrust exercise. We're now going to advance onto a single leg variation. So dropping the hips down, Jake. Let's center one leg a little bit more just for support, and the opposite leg is in the air, and you're going to try keep it in line with the lifting leg. So from here, you're going to engage the glutes, raise the hips up, and back down towards the ground, but not all the way. You're just going to hover above the ground, squeeze the glute, and raise back up again. Each time you lift, you're going to engage the glute, remembering not to hyperextend through the back. The back is not arching to lift here. The movement is coming from hip extension. So squeezing through the glute to lift the hips up, but keeping that back nice and flat. 8 to 10 repetitions here, and you're going to complete a full set on each leg before moving on. Keep reminding yourself to engage the glute, squeezing through that glute muscle in the backside. Keep it nice and steady. Good, and resting. Okay, so full set on each leg, and then you're going to either repeat the sets or alternate. The next exercise is going to be the single leg squat. And what you need for this exercise is some sort of surface, whether it's a chair or a low table. And the height of this is determined by your strength and your physical ability. So use a higher surface to start off with. And then if you feel that you're okay with this exercise, you're stabilizing well, you're feeling strong, you can move to a lower surface. So Jake's going to demonstrate the single leg squat here. You're going to start off by transitioning your weight onto one leg with your arms in front just to counterbalance. You're going to squat as you would with a normal double leg squat, but you're going to try find the surface behind you, just gently touching it and coming to a standing position, all the while trying to keep your hip, knee, and ankle aligned. If you're feeling strong on this, which Jake is looking good here, we're going to take it to a lower surface. So Jake, let's test this out on this lower surface and see how you do. And again, keeping that ankle, knee, and hip aligned. Only progress onto a lower surface if you're feeling strong on this movement. Eight to 10 repetitions here in total. Now, if you are feeling that this is a bit of a struggle, what you can do is come fully to a rested position. So Jake's just going to demonstrate here. So what you can do is drop down fully onto the surface, rest for a split second, and then push back up. Good, let's demonstrate that just once more. Coming fully down, resting, and then pushing back up. But once you develop strength with that, you want to take it to that full variation where you're just tapping and lifting back up. So let's just see 2 more repetitions there, Jake, on that. So you'll advance on to just that tap and coming back up again, but keeping it nice and steady. Perfect. Okay, so you're going to end up doing a full set on each leg there for 8 to 10 repetitions, and find what you're comfortable with, but challenge yourself. So start with a higher surface. You might have to begin with that resting position on the box or on the surface you're using, and then coming back up again, pushing up from that position. But as you get stronger, try progress onto a fluid movement where you're dropping, just tapping and coming back up again, and then progressing onto a lower surface, all the while trying to keep your ankle, your knee, and hip aligned. The next exercise is going to focus on the upper body, and again you're going to use a raised surface here like a chair or low table, and it's going to be the tricep dip exercise. So we're going to progress this on from the floor tricep dip exercise that we introduced in the previous block to now performing it on a raised surface. So you're going to have your hands across the edge of a surface, walking your feet out so that your legs are straight if possible. And from here, you're going to bend through the elbows to lower your body towards the ground and extend through the elbows to raise back up again. To adapt this exercise, if you're feeling that it's a little bit hard, you can bring your knees closer to you. So Jake's going to demonstrate here. So bring your feet, closer to you and bend your knees. So this now takes a bit of pressure off the arms and loads it into the legs. But Jake's looking strong on this, so we'll take it back to that straight leg variation. But as you do that, watch the backside. Make sure it doesn't come away from the bench. Keep the pressure on the arms. Flexing and extending at the elbows, pushing the bench away from you. And watching the shoulders that they don't creep up towards your ears. So 8 to 10 repetitions here. Good. And we're moving on then to the side step exercise. So the side step exercise is a progression, side step up exercise is a progression from your step up exercise where you would have performed a step up through through frontal movement, pulling up, and then controlling that movement down. So we're still looking for that movement, but now we're doing it from the side. So pulling up, full foot flat on the box, and then pulling up. So not allowing this leg to push you up too much. So Jake's going to demonstrate that one. And just a reminder here that you want to use a surface where you've got about a 90-degree bend in the leg, or a lower surface if needed, but definitely not a higher surface. You don't want the knee up beyond a 90-degree angle. Okay, so Jake's going to demonstrate this, pulling from the elevated leg and extending, stabilizing through the ankle, the knee, and the hip. As you pull up, you want the weight on the foot, and you can drive through that heel as you come up, squeezing through the glute as you extend. On the way back down, you want to make sure you're controlling that drop back down and not just letting yourself plonk back down onto the ground. Control that drop. Keep reminding yourself to activate through the glute as you lift up, and watch your hip position here, trying not to let the hips tilt side to side. You want to keep the hips nice and steady as you transition from that drop position up onto the box. You're going to perform 8 to 10 repetitions here again on each leg before moving on. Take your time with this one, really focus on that pull up onto the box. Nice and tall through your torso. And keeping that core engaged as well. Good. Okay, 8 to 10 repetitions there on each leg, and the next exercise is going to be your arm reach plank. So, progressing on here from some of the plank variation exercises that we have completed. This is quite an advanced one. So if you feel that this is a little bit too difficult, what you can do is go back to some of the previous exercises, build up a bit of strength through your core and the rest of the body, and then progress onto this when you're ready. So we're going to start off in plank position. The weight is on your elbows, or your forearms, your elbows below your shoulders. Feet shoulder width apart, nice strong core, and a neutral spine, so you don't want the hips dropping down or lifting up. From here, you're going to reach one arm out in front, and as you do that, try not to let your hips shift or rotate. Slowly draw it back, and repeat the same on the opposite side. So the big challenge here is trying to transition from that 4-point position to a 3-point position while keeping your core engaged and not letting the hips rotate on this. Quite a challenging exercise. Just take your time with it and don't rush this movement. The slower you perform this, the more challenging. So try keep it as slow as possible. And keep challenging that core to stay engaged. Each rep that you do, it becomes harder to keep those hips still. But keep that core engaged. Engage it before each arm reach. And try not to let the hips twist. And watch that foot position as well. You might want to, or you might see a little bit of a lift or shift there through the feet. Try to keep that nice and strong too. So that's your plank arm reach exercise again. 8 to 10 repetitions there. And that exercise is going to finish up our strength and power unit. We're now going to take it onto a cool down stretch just to finish off the workout. Okay, so for the cool down stretch, you're going to hold each stretch for about 30 to 45 seconds. And you're going to flow through a routine here from standing position down onto the floor and then back up onto the feet. Okay, so Henry, we're going to just start off with a stretch for the posterior chain, so along the calves, hamstrings, glutes, into your back, and we're going to stretch through the chest as well. So I'm going to get you to take your hands behind your back, interlock your fingers, and then you're going to pull your arms back to stretch through your chest. From that position, feet pointing forward, just about shoulder width apart, you're going to hinge forward at the hips and try bring your arms up as high as you can to the ceiling. So you're pulling your hands up to the ceiling and trying to keep your legs nice and straight on this. Good, so we're going to hold here for 30 seconds on each stretch. Really pulling those arms up. And really exaggerate that pull of the chest. And as you hold this movement, try exaggerate that pull. Pulling back through the shoulders, pulling the hands towards the ceiling. Good, so just holding for another 5 seconds, really exaggerating that stretch and just using a nice slow controlled breathing pattern here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, keeping that position, Henry, bring your hands down onto the mat. Good, you're going to walk forward, you're going to drop onto one knee, and you're going to bring the opposite foot forward, and we're going to take a hip flexor stretch here. Good, so you're going to lean forward, and what you're looking for here is a nice stretch on the front of the hip. If you're not feeling that stretch, you can just walk your front foot forward a little bit more. If you're too far back, you're not going to get that stretch. So your knee here in front doesn't want to come over the toes. You're going to walk it forward and hold that stretch. Again, holding each stretch for about 30 seconds. If you can hold it for a little bit longer, you can go up to 45 seconds. Okay, let's keep that position, and we're going to take it now to the hamstring on the opposite side. So you're going to sit back, you're going to allow the toes come up towards you, and you're going to reach forward towards the foot. Okay, so as you're performing this stretch, you want to reach your hands towards the foot, but don't force the stretch and don't force any of these stretches. So just stretching to the point of tension and never pain on these movements. So you're just reaching towards that foot. If you can't reach the foot or the ankle, don't worry about it. Don't force the movement. So again, holding for about 30 seconds here, just helping these muscles to stretch out and kickstart that recovery. Good. Okay, Henry, you're going to switch legs. Opposite leg forward. You're going to push forward for that hip flexor stretch. If you're not feeling that, again, walk that front foot forward a little bit more. And just gently sitting forward. And let your torso come forward with you. You don't want to pull back on this movement. So just keep that spine neutral and hinge forward. Just trying to find that stretch on the front of that back leg. Again, using your breath, deep breaths into the nose, out through the mouth, remembering that that breath can help mobilize the joints and muscles. And sitting back for your hamstring stretch on this side. Again, reaching towards the foot, but not forcing the movement. If you can't reach the foot or ankle, just reach down along the leg as far as you can. If you find that the muscle is releasing out and you can reach a little bit further, take it that little bit further. And on each exhale, imagine that muscle relaxing. And relax. Perfect. Okay, let's face this direction for the next one, Henry. We're going to take it now to the inner thigh. Take your hands down in front. You're going to bring your left leg out to the side. Toes pointing forward. And you're going to press back, and you should feel this stretch along the inside of the left leg. If you're struggling to find that stretch, you're just going to walk the supporting knee out a little bit wider and gently press back into it. You can rotate through the torso and sink down into it if you want to find a little bit of a deeper stretch. Feeling that, Henry? Again, about 30 to 45 seconds. And you can switch legs. Good, okay, straight leg on the stretching leg. Sit back into it, try find that stretch along the inside of the leg. Again, if you're struggling to find that stretch, you can walk the supporting knee out a little bit more, or you can rotate your torso towards the supporting knee. Again, using your breath, relax the muscles on the exhale. Good. Okay, Henry, I'll get you to bring your hands to the front of the mat again. From here, you're going to lift onto your toes. Nice straight leg position. Walk back to a standing position. Trying to keep the legs as straight as possible. And we're just going to finish off. You can stay facing that direction, Henry. We're going to finish off with a quad stretch. So you're going to keep your supporting leg nice and soft on this. I want you to reach back, grab a hold of your foot behind, and pull your heel towards your back side. Now, as you're doing this, the supporting knee staying soft to stabilize. And pulling your heel nice and close to the back side. If your knee is out here in front, you're not going to feel that stretch. So pull it back in line with the opposite leg or back beyond it if you can. Also trying not to let that knee flare out to the side. So keep it centered, keep it pulled back, and hold that stretch on the quad. Again, 30 to 45 seconds, and switch it over. Soft supporting leg. Keep that balance. If you are struggling to balance here, you can just hold on to something and get that stretch. So again, knee centered, pull it back. Try not to let it come out in front. Try not to let it come out to the side. Pull it back, stay centered, and feel that stretch on the front here on the quad. Again, using your breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And relax. Good. Okay, and that's it for our session today. Thank you very much for joining us, and looking forward to seeing you in the next session.